Gentleman yields. Chief Schultz, I'm the last one. I mentioned in the E&E article in my opening statement, it highlighted that the Biden administration, which there were enormous amounts of money allocated beyond base a few years ago, and yet you were left with a $750 million budget shortfall. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Also, I'd like to enter into the record a report from USDA's Inspector General that found the Forest Service exceeded a limit on administrative expenses for the Community Wildfire Defense Grants by $37 million. Without objection, so ordered. So think about it. This was put in place a few years ago, this Community Wildfire Defense Grants, and the Inspector General found that the money that was supposed to be going to the front line to fight fire was being diverted to Washington, D.C. Have you had any wildfires here in Washington? Do you know of any wildfires in Washington, D.C. in the last few years?
No, sir.
Yeah, being diverted away from where it should. So Chief Schultz, the question for me is, what state did you find the Forest Service budget when you came into office?
Mr. Chairman, the budget, as you've indicated previously, was in the hole about $750 million. So in addition to the hiring freeze that was in place, and we did not hire seasonals, the reductions that have taken place, this is the piece we haven't talked about, the 5,200 people that have left on a voluntary on a basis, that is necessary for us to meet and be fiscally responsible and manage within our budget. And if you look at the Secretary, as a part of the restructuring effort, her first principle that she identified was that the workforce aligns with our federal resources. So when you think about what we're trying to achieve as a part of this restructuring effort is to make sure that we are managing our workforce within the budget that we have, as opposed to saying we have this many people. We need to look at the budget we have and administer that budget in a way that's fiscally responsible, pursuant to federal law. So that's what's driving what we're doing.
And yet you've been largely able to manage wildfire this season. Isn't that correct? I listened to Mr. Bentz from Oregon. He commented about he has firefighters asking for work. Is that accurate?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I would say we have had adequate resources this season to fight the wildfires. Yes, sir.
What effect do frivolous lawsuits have on the work that the Forest Service does?
Mr. Chairman, it has a significant impact on our timber sale programs, and it can affect other programs as well. At Region 1, for instance, we have over 300 million board feet that is tied up in litigation, and there's another 200 million feet that is at threat of litigation. So it definitely impairs things. Not only does it slow things down in the courts, but it also makes managers more risk averse, and they end up doing more review and creating longer documents, taking longer time to get decisions made in anticipation of things going to court. So I would argue that litigation has a significant impact on the work that we do.
I have information that there's 3 environmental NGOs at present who are responsible for nearly half of the forest management lawsuits. Does that sound about right?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have the information for anybody. I can't dispute it. I don't know those numbers.
3 environmental NGOs. Should Congress consider some reforms like the Equal Access to Justice Act to stop these frivolous lawsuits?
Now, Mr. Chairman, that's been discussed for years, and I think that's something that would definitely warrant greater discussion with Congress. I mean, it's been discussed for many years.
Finally, in regards to access, gentlelady from Wyoming talked about that, and is access to our national forests a priority for you?
Mr. Chairman, yes, it is. When you think about how people know the national forest system, it's primarily through recreation. And having access to those, whether they like to hike, whether they fish, whether they hunt, whether they use motorized vehicles or equestrians, it's a significant part of what we do. And it's looking at not just acquiring new access, but opening up access to the lands that we currently manage.
And that is why the roadless rule is being reviewed. Is that accurate?
That's a part of what we're looking at, yes, sir, is opening up access. That's correct.
I appreciate that very much. I would urge you at some point to look at back when I was in the state legislature, we did a study, a peer-reviewed study called the Forest Practices Study. It was managed by the Great Lakes Timber Professionals in Wisconsin. And I would urge you to take a look at that. While it focused on state land and the reduction in harvest and value to the taxpayers of the state of Wisconsin on some state-managed properties, I extrapolated that study to national forest lands, of which we have 1.5 million acres in Wisconsin, right? The Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest. By the way, have you learned how to spell Chequamegon-Nicolet yet?
It's got a Q in there.
Yeah, there's a few in there. And, but I extrapolated that study to the Forest Service, and I believe that over the course of 30 years, once we saw this management regime that became preservation rather than management after 1988, that it actually had cost the federal government, the state of Wisconsin, and the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest specifically, $250 million in value. And this forest practices study was really good because we had a company come in and do a rendition of an alternate harvest, and we showed it to people and said, can you tell the difference between the two harvests? They could not, yet there was millions of dollars of value that was brought out, even though it did not look like the management was much different in terms of how the public would view it. If you get a chance, I'm sure you can find a person that would share that information with you. I think you would find it quite interesting.